Hello, students. Let's talk in this lecture number 8, week 4, a lecture about warranties and also a little bit about international law. Now, warranties, perhaps the best way to consider this is you go and buy a car, and the law will basically say, well, you have a warranty, sort of like a representation or a guarantee, if you will, maybe the best way to think about it. So there are a couple of ways. Not only will you be receiving the express or written guarantees or warranty, but also there'll be some implied by law. So even though it's not in your contract, the law is also going to provide some guarantees to you. Let's go to a warranty is an assurance or guarantee, okay, that the goods are such and such. Now, the UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, has some sections or laws that provide to that. So they have three types of title, three types of warranties. First, they talk about, well, there's title, express, and implied. So let's start with title. I didn't talk about those yet. Number one, title. You can only sell what you own. That title just means you own it. So if I'm selling you something, I can either say that I have good title, I own it. There's no liens. In other words, I don't owe any money to the bank on it. And let's say it doesn't infringe someone else's rights. Trademark, for example, or patent. I've violated someone else's rights when I sell you this patent. So that would be a title warranty. Let's look at, let's see, keep going. I'll let you read through those. Now, let's go to the second type of warranties, which are express warranties. And that's something that is conveyed or communicated to you when you buy your car. It could be oral. The salesman says such and such. And again, not just puffering like, oh, this is just a beautiful car. No, if he tells you this car will get 20 miles a gallon, that's a warranty. Even if it's theoretically, even if it's not in the contract, he said it'll get 20. And if it gets 5 miles a gallon, then they have breached the warranty. And theoretically, you could sue the car company, the car dealership, for breaching your warranty of saying it'd get 20 miles to the gallon. Usually it has to do with the goods or whatever's being sold, quality, description, or performance. What's an express warranty? Well, for example, if I see an advertisement or a brochure of something, that's an express warranty, you know, how they're described. Any affirmation that the salesman has made to you. A sample or model. Hey, here's a model of this computer you can see at Best Buy. And then, but when you go and actually buy the computer and they give you the sealed box and you open it up, it's not the same computer, then they have breached the warranty or representation, or guarantee is another way to say that. The seller, for something to comprise or be a warranty, they don't have to say warranty, they don't have to say guarantee, but it's still a warranty, it's still a guarantee. That's required by law. Again, let's make this distinction. This one has to do with things of fact, not just opinions, and you have reasonably relied on that expression of the fact. Okay, in addition to a title warranty, in other words, I own it so I can sell it, an express warranty, what is said or written to you. We also have an implied warranty that you know, you might go to a used car dealer that says as is. This is just sold as is. Well, that's not entirely true. There are lemon laws that you can, within a few days, back out of a car sale. But the law implies certain warranties, even if it's not in the contract. Merchantability, that type of implied warranty is that I'm the merchant, I'm a car dealer, so I'm involved in this kind of sale. So what I'm giving you is merchantable, it's saleable. In other words, it's here's the quote, reasonable fit for the ordinary purpose for which the goods are used. Ordinary purpose. So let's give you an example. I buy a pickup truck. Well, the dealer has an implied warranty to me that I can probably throw something in the back and haul it. Okay, that's merchantable. That's ordinary purposes of a pickup truck. It's average, fair, medium grade. It's adequately packaged. It conforms to the promises, etc. However, we're going to see just a minute that if I have a special purpose, well, it'll go up a mountain and has a special goose point hitch in the middle of the bed, etc. Those were specific purposes. So that's not the ordinary purpose. So let's stay with merchantable goods. Merchantable food, for example. Even though there's no warranty written when I go buy a Diet Coke at the ball game, the law says that the person who's selling me the Diet Coke is guaranteeing or warranting that it's palatable, that I can drink it. Okay, if it's up to my expectations. Now, implied warranty is of a particular purpose. Let's say, for example, let's go back to the car dealership. I go in and just say, gee, I want a pickup. Well, I haven't told him of a specific purpose. I haven't told him that I'm going to put a gooseneck trailer in the bed, that I need to go up this, 35-degree hill towing 5,000 pounds, that trailer. I haven't said any of that, so he's not liable if I then go use it. However, because that's just a general merchantability. Now, if I go into the car dealership and say, I must have a truck that'll fit this gooseneck trailer and it'll haul 5,000 pounds up a such and such grade, then the dealer is on notice that I have a particular purpose of use for this truck. And so at that point, he has a warranty, he has a guarantee, a representation that the truck he is selling me will do that. I'm going to let you read through these. Lemon law is referred to in many states, and you can just look it up on Google, but Oklahoma, for example, has a lemon law that if there's a car, especially a new one, then I can usually return it. Depending on the state, some say used cars aren't covered by lemon laws, and some states they are. In the lemon laws, the car dealer has the opportunity to fix it, to remedy it. So I just can't. Let's say I go buy a Mercedes, it's $100,000, and the next day it doesn't run perfectly. And I thought, oh crap, I shouldn't have bought a $100,000 car. How am I going to pay for that? Well, I can't just say, gee, there's this little defect, which they could replace the spark plug or a timing belt or something, and then just get out of the contract. They have a legal right to remedy the defect in the car. We've talked about arbitration. A lot of times contracts will have a provision that says, gee, if you sue us, Toyota, we go to arbitration. We don't go to court. We're going to arbitrate it, and it has to be in such and such state. Here's some federal laws that give you certain rights, consumer transactions. We have greater guarantees. You have to, essentially, most goods over 25 bucks, they have to repair, replace a defective part. They have to tell you what the warranty is. If they're limiting it, they have to tell you what the limitations are. The language of the disclaimer or the limitations on your warranty has to be clear, and it has to be, for example, often in larger print or bold print or something so it's very clear to you. Let's see, let's go over those. We've already talked about an express warranty is something that I say to you. I say it orally, or it's actually in the contract. An implied warranty, however, it's it's implied by law. Now, some, like a used car dealer, might say as is or with all faults, then theoretically they're able to get away with not meeting all warranties that otherwise would occur. Now, there's a fairness standard, if you will, an unconscionability that courts will say, well, wait a minute, yeah, you can kind of have a limited warranty. My drivetrain on my car is limited to 3 years. That's fine. But if, for example, the warranty said it's your warranty on the car is for 24 hours, or yeah, we'll warranty it, but you have to pay for all the labor and all the parts. I mean, just something like that, then that's unconscionable. And if you didn't have a choice, if it was take it or leave it, the court might find that that's unenforceable and you could get your car repaired for free. Also, interesting statute of limitations. You have to, if you're going to sue somebody, you have to do it within a certain number of years, okay? And so when does that time period start? Well, it kind of depends, but this has a reference. If it's like a latent defect, like a house, there's something in the wall that you didn't tell me about, the termites, often the courts will say, well, the new buyer wouldn't have known, so we're not going to start the statute of limitations, in other words, a period in which the buyer can sue you based on the house sale. We're going to see when it was discovered. However, in many sales or leases, it does, the statute of limitations does start to run when the transaction happens. All right, let's jump over to international law. We're not even going to do space law, so if you're really interested, I'll let you do that. International law, they're really, it's a bit of a misnomer because every country has its own laws, and it's called the sovereignty doctrine. We respect, we wouldn't presume to tell Mexico what they can and can't do in Mexico. They likewise would not tell us what we can and can't do in the U.S. legally. So that's sovereignty. So international law is basically if we are selling or transacting business, for example, between countries, what law applies. That can be anything from customs treaties, organizations, or your private contract that you write. Here you see, and this is referring to customs, treaties, international organizations. But again, we often supersede all these by writing our private contract. With my customer in Mexico, we're going to have a written contract, and that the language of that written contract will often supersede the treaties, international customs, etc. And they will usually apply only to the extent that our contract didn't refer to such and such, that the treaty provides, etc. So when they say international law, it's often not as much the business law, it's more, gee, what customs do we charge each other? There's a quasi-free trade agreement now between Canada, Mexico, and the U.S., where the tariffs, the import duties aren't as high as they are for China, for example, trying to import to the U.S. That's an example of a treaty international agreements. Yeah, there's just so much of this that really is beyond the scope. I'd love to get into it, but it's really beyond the scope of a business law course because most of you are, because you are MBA students and not on going in political route. So we'll basically gloss over a bunch of this information because it's generally not going to be applicable to you and would be in my international law class. We already talked about the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law, blah, blah, blah. The CISG, we talked about that in a prior week, where if you don't agree what law applies in your contract, here's a treaty or a convention that a lot of countries have agreed on, says, okay, this is the Uniform Commercial Code. This is the law of international trade. Common law, civil law systems, what's the difference? Well, in common law, like the US, we generally look at not only statutes, but judge-made law. So a judge can come up with something that we have to follow a next year the court has to follow what he said last year, et cetera. That's known as precedent or stare decisis. However, in civil law systems, and again, this is a crass generalization, the judge, for example, can just say, no, this is the statute. This is the rule I look at. I don't care what another judge said. I just have to look at the statute. So theoretically, you can get varying judgments from different judges on the same piece of law. Okay, so that's a civil system. And again, this is a real generalization. There are also Islamic legal systems in a lot of countries where I do business. For example, commercial law. Between businesses, there'll be a standard commercial code. However, if you're involved in a domestic matter or a family matter, then that will be under Sharia law. Rather than the commercial code, you'd file Sharia law. You know, the marriage, adoption, things like that. Here's a good graphic on page 54 of the outlines here of the different types of law. We talked about sovereign immunity. We're not going to get into these. Again, you've got so much to cover in this class. I just don't think that we just have the time to go through these at this point. I'm just saying here is an important issue for you. When you do business internationally, there's a number of ways to do it, but basically, you can export. You know, you're going to sell your goods overseas. You can do that direct or indirect. If you're doing it direct, you're selling. Like I'm going to have a website. Somebody from Mexico gets and orders something on a website, and I ship it to Mexico. Indirect might be, for example, where I manufacture something in the U.S., but then I sell it to a company in Miami that sells all over the world. They sell a bunch of products, including mine. That would be my indirect export when I go ahead and sell it through another company, and I don't have to worry about all the exporting. I just sell it to Florida, for example. Agency, I don't like the textbook on this. I think it's a little confusing, and after 30 years, I would rewrite this chapter or this portion of the chapter, but let me just say, distributor versus sales representative, this is important for you to understand when you get into business. A distributor is where I sell my goods to another company who in turn is going to sell it to the customer. So for example, in Spain, I'm manufacturing computers. I sell it to Computer Solutions España or whatever in Madrid. They buy all my computers, but then they resell it throughout Spain. So really the ultimate customers are their customers, not mine. I'm selling to a single customer. He, the distributor, is paying me. Conversely, if in Spain I got a sales representative, then that person or company would be arranging sales from me to the customer. So they send me back the purchase orders from the customer, and I ship right to the customer. Now, the difference there is, with a distributor, I have one customer, that's a distributor. With a sales rep, I have hundreds or thousands of customers. With a distributor, the distributor makes money because he buys them from me for $500 and sells them for $600. So he's making his money by reselling at a higher price. With a sales representative, he gets paid a commission on every sale. So I'm paying a commission. So those are the general distinctions you need to understand on the structure of a distributor versus a sales representative. I can also manufacture in that foreign country. I can literally get a plant and start up and manufacture and sell in Spain. Conversely, if there's already a company that can make computers, I might just charge them a license and give them the designs to my computer, the motherboard in my computer, and they might pay me a fee, a licensing fee, to use that design. Franchising, I think you're all familiar with franchising. McDonald's is a perfect example. McDonald's owns McDonald's and the brand and the way of doing business, but I can buy a franchise in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but I have to do business their way. and then I pay X amount to buy the franchise, then I'll pay franchise fees going forward. That also can be an international model of distribution. When I'm manufacturing overseas, I can actually form another company that I own. That would be known as a subsidiary. Or I could actually do a joint venture, which is basically cooperating with another company. In Spain, I might want to manufacture in Spain. The cost is lower, so I might manufacture my computers in Spain, and I'm a 50-50 partner, for example, with a Spanish company. So we're both involved there in Spain. Let's keep going. Export controls. Boy, I teach a whole course on import and export compliance and quotas, tariffs, et cetera. So we won't even go into those at this point. By the way, trade barriers have to do with duties that you pay when you go into a country. Dispute resolution, we've already talked about them. I'm going to let you look through these things. I'm not going to test you on antitrust, international tort, et cetera, et cetera. I'll let you read through the remainder of these.